It's our podcast. What's
Hi.
up? What's up?
Hi.
Hey, okay, so today we are talking about Britney Spears' meltdown in 2007, 2008.
I guess.
And you know, what?
Why is it that you want to talk about her meltdown from 2007? Because it honestly has nothing to do with what's going on right now.
Okay.
So, what's your reasoning behind
My
it?
reasoning behind it is because I saw this post that was just like, I want to apologize to Britney for making fun of her breakdown. And I was just like, were people making fun of her breakdown? What was it even about? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up and I told you she was she was going through it. Like, she couldn't be by herself. She was anxiety ridden and locking herself in the room with her child and shaving her head and beating the photographers with an umbrella. But in retrospect, none of that seems crazy. If you think about being on TV since, how old was she? 10, 11?
Probably.
And she was only 23, 24, in her 20s. I feel like if someone is in my face that long,
Right.
I feel like I'm
You're going to break eventually.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on the person, because they're like, oh, she had an abusive father and her childhood was crazy. But I just feel like a lot of famous people, to be exact, fake who they are for the cameras. Mm-hmm. Because if they let themselves truly be themselves, they would fucking freak.
I also feel like, as far as like the abusive father and all that, I feel like a lot of stars, a lot of actresses and famous people nowadays that were making their come up in the early 90s and early 80s and whatnot, I feel like majority of them had unhealthy relationships with their parents, you know, because their parents were so gung-ho about getting them into the business, you know, like, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do it good and you're gonna like it and there's nothing you can say about it whether you want to do it or not. Well, there's a lot of them that were like that, and I feel like that just bled into their adulthood because, you know, now you're an adult and you technically should have control of your life, but you still are run by this ideology that, oh, you're gonna do it and you're gonna do it good. And I feel like her breakdown was essentially just her finally breaking out of that, my parents are forcing me to do this shell. And at that point, with everything going on, she was like, probably didn't care about what people thought about her, you know? It was more or less like, I would really much appreciate having my space right now, because I'm officially able to just be whoever I want to be.
Because they were like, it wasn't drug induced. It's not like most of these stars, quote unquote, that get into the drugs and don't know how to act. Mm-hmm. You know, I think from a young age, I think if you think of I feel like there's a handful maybe of stars that grew up on screen that kept it relatively normal, but a high majority,
or at least that we could see,
a scary majority did not do that.
They got crazy. I.e. another person from that time. What was it, the Raven and what's his name drama?
Yeah, Raven and Orlando Bloom.
Mm-hmm. On TV, oh, they look all good. On the Nickelodeon, well,
I feel like that was way more in the future, though.
You right, but I feel like whatever happened between them stemmed from what happened back then. Yeah. It wasn't just like something new that just popped up and they were just like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make up all of this. No, something happened back then. Yeah. And because they were on the TV and in the light of people for what they were doing, they couldn't hash it out. They couldn't talk about it. They couldn't have their mental breakdowns. They couldn't have nothing. Yeah. So that just stuck inside them, you know, and evolved.
There's also, there's a lot. Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato. There's even people before our time, I'm sure that.
But the thing about the people before our time is there wasn't internet.
But you know what's crazy?
What?
Back then, they even ridiculed Elvis for being too provocative.
Yeah.
And
but that was his thing.
Yeah.
You know? And being provocative isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know? That could be your niche in your market, you know? So don't knock that. But I feel like when he was being too provocative, there were a lot of things that were very conservative at the time. And now that things nowadays aren't extremely conservative, you know, yeah, you have your little niches here and there of really conservative things, but people are more out and about and just being who they really want to be nowadays. So I feel like provocative dances, like, what is the WAP, you know? How Steve Harvey was like, you know, he gets people saying that these women shouldn't be putting out songs like this because, you know, they have a young audience also. But then at the same time, before music like we have now for women were mostly just like, oh, you bow down, you listen to the man, and you do whatever we tell you. Your sexuality means nothing to us. So I feel like, yeah, I agree with him. Like, oh, they have a really young audience, and they're probably not gonna look at the music video and be like, oh, this is just preaching, be proud of your sexuality or anything like that. I'm just gonna do whatever they're doing in the video and do exactly what the words tell me to do and act a fool at my young age. But then at the same time, that also just comes with if the parents are raising their kids right. Because I feel like, I'm not saying I was raised 100% right, but I feel like there's a lot of things that came out when I was young that people just were like, oh yeah, let's go do it, because they're like, I want to do exactly what they're doing, that I didn't do because I'm looking at them like that's just stupid. Like, that's not who I am, you know? I'm not overly influenced by what I just see directly on TV. You know, like, I have my own set of who I am and who I want to be at the time. So I don't think I was influenced by anything like that, or at least nothing so major that it changed me who I am completely. You know,
I think what you're kind of saying, and tell me if I'm understanding this right, is not to put any particular person in a pedestal in your mind, because if you're more focused on being who or what they are, you aren't being who you authentically are.
I'm okay with that explanation. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Because that's like you're saying about how there's young kids watching and stuff, but it's up to the parents, because if they don't have, like, Cardi has a daughter. If she's okay with her daughter seeing what she does, right, then that's her right as a parent. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that all because her daughter saw it, the whole world is going to change. I mean, I don't really know. But I don't think that is something that we have to be like, oh, strictly dickly about. Because that's her child and how she wants to raise her family. And I feel like you need to do what's best for you and your family.
Right. Yeah. And this all technically still relates back to what we started the conversation about Britney Spears' breakdown. Because the parents now are completely different than the parents back then. You know, parents now are, not all of them, I have to say not all of them, are more open to their kids taking alternative routes to get wherever they want to be. Versus back then, the moment your kid showed any promise in anything, they were gung-ho making sure they did it religiously. Sports, acting, singing, all of that.
It's because there wasn't as many avenues as there are now. I feel like we have, at least the internet has opened the door to so many other things that you can do. Things that didn't even exist 10 years ago, let alone 20, 30 years ago. Right. So you can literally do anything.
That is true. That is, oh my God, Becky.
What?
I see a roach.
What? Oh no, Becky. He got it. We're good.
Okay. I don't remember where I was at. I just remember you were saying something about there was things that we have now that wasn't even a real thing 20, 30 years ago. But that is true. That is very true. But Yeah, I feel like that thing threw me completely off of what I was
But
saying.
I feel like it's something that we say all the time about opening your mind to things. Like, think worst case scenario, and I'm not saying this is worst case scenario in case this actually happens, but if our child starts dating an alien or something, you know what I mean? Like,
I probably would be okay with
how open would we be to that idea? Because that's how fast the world is changing in some parents' eyes, that they're just like, this is totally foreign to me, and I have to fear what I don't understand.
Right. You don't have 2-3 generations to figure it out before you can be like, oh yeah, no, it's whatever,
But I feel like it's important to trust and open yourself up to those things, because it's just like, it's not, if your child is in their 20s at this point, I think you should be okay with how you raised them. If you see that they're falling out, or they're not doing what you supposedly raised them to do, I feel like
take the L.
I feel like you just take
the
a step back and not only take the L, but see the good in it. Be like, okay, they're not doing exactly what I specifically wanted them to do, but are they happy?
Yeah, the worst ones usually are the ones where the parents, like, you start dating somebody and they're like, oh no, you can't date that person.
But it's different if that person isn't making you happy. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. There's no indication that the person is making them unhappy, do anything that they wouldn't normally do. They're following their own rules and everything, but your parents just sees them and they're just like, oh no, you could do better. And actively is disgusting towards the person, actively bringing someone around you because they're like, oh, this person's better than who you pick.
Yeah,
like, those are the parents that. I'm just like, you do know you're going to a special place, because you trying to control your child's life after they've left the nest is horrible. For the simple fact that I do believe if you are under your parents' roof, you follow your parents' rules, whether you're an adult or you're a child. And if you don't like that, there's only one option: move out. That's the only option. There is no, let's just have a conversation with mom and dad and see if they can let me be an adult in their house. But we're running out of time. So
we always go off on these tangents.
We should have an episode of Tangents.
Tangents, episode 24.
This episode is brought to you by Colgate. Wait, no, Sensodyne. It helps your teeth. Ayo.
It's not.
It doesn't. Bye, guys.
Bye.